and video using supervised ML, particularly deep learning model, multitask model, etc. We are also doing the sarcasm detections. So when the image is associated with the text, because you have seen that image can provide meaningful information for sarcasm detection. Because from the text only, if you say that, okay, the movie was awesome to put me on sleep. Now, if you see the statement from the text only, it is very hard to decide that it is sarcastic. But let's say when the writer was writing this description, if his or her image, let's say video, is available, or then let's say when he was speaking, maybe the audio is available, then from his or her tone when he was speaking, or let's say video, if it is available, from his expressions, the changes in his face, all these can provide us an useful information to understand that the user was writing wasm in a negative sense. So this is how the multimodal analysis will help in better classification, particularly in sarcasm detections also. So maybe then I can quickly move to my next presentations, which is more related towards. So anyways, I can take one or two questions if you have, and then I quickly move toward the other talk. So anything, any questions
Yes,
so
I have a
far?
question.
Yes,
Sir, in sentiment analysis, the use of
yes.
emojis falls in which domain? Whether words or uh, videos or images? Where do you incorporate the use of emojis for sentiment analysis? Because emojis can give a lot of information about the sentiment of the person who's writing the review or comment.
Yes, yes, yes. So emoji you can also represent as a vector, right? So emoji vector you can present, and you can add to the word representation. So it can append those emoji representations, and then you can pass it through to the input layer of the network. Okay. So you represent the whole sentence at first, and let's say you have also the emoji. You should also have the emoji representation. There is an emoji embedding available. Okay, please look into that. Like word embedding, emoji embedding is also available. You can get the emoji representations, and you can concatenate them together, and then you can pass it to the input layer. That is possible.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, is it possible to identify a person through the writing?
Identify a person through his or her writing. Yes, I did not hear. Am I correct that you are asking that whether it is possible to identify a person through his writing? That is the questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
That is what I'm
yes,
asking.
that is the authorship attribution. That is another area of research. Okay, but sentiment can also play an important role in authorship attributions. If you know that there are people who actually write, in most of the cases, the positive positive sentiment orientation. There can be, let's say, some writers who are always forward the negative oriented message or write something negative. So from these you can get an idea about the person, okay, and then that can be very useful to identify the author given the text. Yes, from the patterns and also some the sentiment that he's writing. Okay, from that you will get an idea about who is writing that particular text. It is possible to do that.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir.
So any other questions? Okay, so maybe then I can go towards the next presentations, the next topic maybe. So now we'll talk about the conversational systems. And before I begin, the conversational system typically means a kind of, you can think, kind of chatbot, right? So you have a machine, and let's say you want to, you have some query, you are asking the query to the machine, and the machine is responding to your query. So this is how you can converse to a computer, let's say, converts to a computer, and the computer is responding to you. That is why it is known as the conversational systems, okay, that can converse with the humans. So it is typically a chatbot. So we'll mainly discuss that some of the research that we have done exclusively at IIT Patna, those kind of research for building the conversational systems. So again, there are many things we have been doing. I may not be able to talk much, but I will give you some background idea about the conversational AI, and I will show you what are the challenges and what are the recent trends, okay, and how the advanced deep learning methods, the advanced natural language processing techniques can be used to build the conversations. Okay, so to introduce, you all know that nowadays AI is one of the most discussed technology, right? Be it in the research field, be it in the consumers or the enterprises, whatever you take. So AI is a hot topic nowadays. And when we talk about the conversational agent or the conversational artificial intelligence or conversational systems, powered by the robust natural language processing and machine learning. So this is one of the very attractive field that has been in the center of AI revolutions during the last few years. Now, what we mean by the conversational artificial intelligence systems is that the systems should be artificially intelligent, okay, or it should be intelligent enough to converse with the speakers, okay, the converse with the writers. And there are many forms of conversational AI-based systems. For example, the phone-based personal assistant like Siri, Cortana, Google Now, etc. You want to talk to your car, for example. You are communicating with the robots, for example. Your the clinical uses for mental health, for example. Chatting for fun, for example. So all are basically related to the, you are asking to select a song, for example, and automatically the song is displayed. Okay. So all are basically the examples of conversational AI systems. And the most simplest form of this is the chatbot. Okay. Now, why chatbot is very important? So there are some statistics. If you see, in 2019, the chatbot report published at Global Trends and Analysis at the Chatbots magazine platform. It shows that by 2020, 80% of the enterprises will use the chatbots. Okay? By 2022, the banks can automate up to 90% of their customer interaction using the chatbots. And also the research shows by the 2021, $4.5 billion will be invested in chatbots. So this shows a kind of this gives an impression or gives an idea that how chatbot has become so integral part in our day-to-day communications, and almost it has become an industry now. Okay, but the today chatbot is what kind of features we are looking into the chatbot. Chatbot was officially started. The first chatbot was developed in 1960. It was named Eliza, and it was developed at MIT lab. Now, at that point in time, the chatbot was not so you can say that, or not so intelligent like today's chatbot is. So at that point, let's say what we could have expected from the chatbot. Let's say you can say that okay, there will be a systems, and you will ask that okay, can you book an appointment for me? And chatbot will book schedule appointment for you. It will check your calendar and it will show you the options, and then you will ask that okay, this option is suitable for me, and then book an appointment. Or let's say railway reservation ticket, flight booking ticket, you are conversing and booking it. Okay. Or let's say you want there is a set of songs and you want to play something, you are asking your bot that can you play that song. So these are simple. All these chatbots were these communications were not very difficult. But in nowadays chatbots are not like this. It is not like simply booking like an appointment. It is not simply like playing a song. It is not like playing, doing all these kind of typical activities. Today chatbot is something more. Okay. So ideally, when chatbot before let's say 2000, let's say until you can say 2013 or so, most of the chatbots were knowledge-based oriented. So what we mean by the knowledge-based oriented is that it used to maintain a kind of database, and when the user utterance comes, the it used to respond to the utterance uh, with the appropriate answers. Okay, and you will have a set of utterances, possible alternatives, and you have to pick up one among them. That means you are maintaining a database, you are storing all possible responses, and then you are choosing one of them by a kind of database search. But that is not really the power of artificial intelligence. Okay, that is not really understanding how to actual humans communicate with each other. Okay, so communication between two different human is much more compared to this. So now, what is today's chatbot now? Today chatbot actually should understand the different humans, let's say, should understand the context, why a user is saying something, when it should understand the user's mood, that in which mood user is, whether the speaker is in happier mood or in sad mood, and the bot has to respond accordingly. Okay, so if you say that okay, this is a very bad day for me, I did not do well, okay, the whole day because of some reasons. And if you are asking to, let's say, Amazon Alexa, and Amazon Alexa says that okay, that is very great to hear from you, then you will not feel very good. That happens in our human to human communications. Let's say if you are not happy, if you are in pensive mood, if you are in sorrow state, and if you are discussing with your close friend, your family persons, and if your close friend is, let's say, is not giving attention to you, or playing, or let's say, is let's say is laughing at you, then you feel very disturbed, and then probably you will not continue discussing the same thing with your friend again and again. So if you see that your friend, let's say X and Y, are not attentive to your problems that you are trying to discuss, then you feel detached to them over a period of time. That happens in human to human communications. And this is also true nowadays in the chatbot. If I am talking to a machine, if the machine can understand my mood, if can machine understand my my let's say emotion, that when I am happy, when I am angry, when I am sad, when I am disgusted, and if the bot understand these and respond to me accordingly, then it will be a more like a human to human communications. That actually you want to establish to the chatbot. It will not merely search a railway ticket for you. It will not merely play a song for you, but it will understand your mood, it will understand your emotion, it will understand your sentiment, and then it will converse with you. That is what today's chatbot needs. So that is why It needs a lot of reasoning capability, deep machine learnings, deep language understanding. You have to understand the context, okay? Why you are, let's say, suddenly disgusted. If I am a good friend, I should know that maybe you had something, you had an interview, or you had, let's say, exams or something, and you did not maybe do well for that. So the context understanding plays an important role. And then personalization, the emotion sentiment is obviously very important to converse efficiently with the bot. The bot does not understand the speaker sentiment, then the speaker may feel detached, and then he or she may not like to continue discussions. Similarly, personalization is another important aspect. What do you mean by the personalizations then? The personalizations is basically, for example, if you have, let's say, multiple friends, okay, many friends, and you know that one of friend is very sport lover, very sporty. So when maybe you talk to that person, you talk about cricket, talk about tennis, you talk about football, lot of sports kind of thing. But if you know that your other friend is more is movie oriented, he likes movie or she likes movie a lot. So when you discuss with them, so she or he will feel better if you discuss related to the movie. If you know that your friend is more towards it's a technology oriented, and then if you talk to him or with him or her with the latest innovation in the technology, then maybe your interactions will be more engaging and it will last for a long time. So this is known as the personalizations. If the bot can be equipped with this kind of capability, if he knows that okay, I'm talking to person X, and the person X is a sporty lover, so when I start interacting, I will just try to engage him in the sports related matters so that he will be happy or she will be happy. If he is, let's say, technology oriented, I will give him more hints towards the technology and I will ensure that the interaction happens for a long time. So this is very important in nowadays chatbot. And these are all the challenging problems, the understanding the empathy to answer very precisely, very specifically, understanding the sentiment, emotions, and all these need robust machine learning systems, robust natural language processing systems. The Facebook AI, the Facebook Artificial Intelligence Lab, has been doing a lot of research towards these directions, towards making the bot more like a human being. And they had identified five important properties. Many of them already we have discussed. One property is the consistency. The bot has to behave in a consistent way. Okay? Consistent way in the sense that if you say something for the query, same query, let's say if you search that, okay, Amazon Alexa, for example, and if you ask that what is the temperature today in Patna, for example, and to me, if it says it is 47 degree, and then another user is asking, and it says that okay, it is 30 degree, then it is not consistent. For the same query, the bot has to behave in a consistent manner. Specificity is very important. The query that you are asking, if the bot is not responding to that, if you're asking, okay, how far is the airport from IIT Patna? And the bot is saying that, okay, do you want to go to Patna railway stations? Okay, it will take 2 hours. So this kind of discussion, if it does, then you feel very bored because the questions that you had actually asked, the bot, rather than answering that, it is saying many different things. So you have to be very specific, very to the point. That also is very important. Let's say in the interview also, or in the exams also, whatever questions is asked to you, if you don't write answers to that, rather than you are answering many different things associated with it, your examiner or the experts will not be very happy. Then the empathy, that is very difficult. Can it understand the human's sentiment, emotions? That is very important. And in our discussion, in my discussions, I will mainly focus on this. How can you make the bot more to understand the human sentiment, to understand the human emotions, okay, or the courteousness, that how can it understand the politeness, and then the knowledgeability is another important property. What is knowledgeability? Knowledgeability is basically, it says that it should be able to give you the answers that a human being can do. Then the multimodal understanding. So not only text, if the input is, let's say, in image, input is a video, is an audio, can the bot also respond to such situations? That is very important. Now, with all these, so I will mainly now talk about the how can you make it more empathetic. Typically, there are two kinds of chatbot. We call it chatbot, conversational system, conversational AI system, or a dialogue system, or all the same thing. One is that open chit chat agent, and the other one is a task oriented dialogue agent. What is open chit chat? Open chit chat means you can arbitrarily ask any kind of questions. Google Now, for example, you can ask any kind of questions to it. Sometimes you are asking, let's say, how is Boogie X? Sometimes you are asking, how is the weather in US? So different kind of questions you are asking. So dealing with a open domain environment, open chit chat environment is comparatively more difficult than a task-oriented environment. What is task-oriented dialogue agent? In task-oriented dialogue agent, your task is very well defined. Let's see if I say that I have built a chatbot that will address the grievances in the railway department. So it can work only for the railway. But it cannot ask it to work for, say, uh, another domain, for example, health, another domain, let's say the judiciary. It is not possible. So in case of task-oriented domain, the task is very fixed. Your bot is developed only to perform those activities, and so its efficiency, its importance will be determined that how it responds in such kind of situations. So now typically, if you want to build a conversational system, it is a kind of, let's say, speak. If you, there can be a kind of speech. For example, you are asking a question. There is a audio. There should be a ASR, right? It converts the audio to the text. Then there are three models in dialogue systems. One is the natural language understanding. Natural language understanding model will try to identify the intent behind this particular query, that what you want. For example, if I want to book a ticket from Patna to Delhi, so the bot through natural language understanding should understand that, okay, this user wants to book a ticket from Patna to Delhi. If I want to book a ticket for a movie, the bot will have to understand, yes, this user wants to book a movie for. So this is natural language understanding. And then dialogue management is another important thing. Dialogue management will tell you that what answers to be produced if you have multiple answers. And then there is a natural language generation that will actually help you to generate the response and present to the user. Its task is to see that, okay, what kind of responses, okay, what will be the good way to represent the response so that it will be more attractive to the users. And then again text, and there will be text to speech synthesis, and then again audio, the answers will be returned to the users. This is how typically a bot works. Now in my discussions I will focus in this natural language generation part. Okay? So what do you mean by that? This is very important component of overall dialogue systems, and we can say it is generally is the combination of two steps. One is the content planning, one is the sentence realizations. Now, in case of content planning, we can say that the content planning is basically content planning tells you that what to be delivered to the users, what to be, if you have multiple possible responses, which is to be selected as a possible output. And in case of sentence realizations, like for example, how to present that information to the users is the task of the proper natural language generations. For example, if the user says book a flight from Kolkata to Delhi, system will say, can you please specify the date of the travel? Then you say, okay, the travel date is let's say 5th October 2020. Then the bot will give you a lot of options. So this is how the communication happens between a bot and a user. Now we'll discuss about the conversational AI, which is more oriented with the human sentiment emotions. So this is an example that I already discussed before, and there is a data set, empathetic dialogue data set. Let's say the speaker is saying, I finally got promoted today at work. Now, if the listener says that why would anyone promote you, then your speaker will not be very happy from this response because the speaker has been promoted and the listener, rather than appreciating, is raising a concern or raising a doubt, and the speaker will not be very happy. But if the listener says that, okay, congrats, that is great, then the speaker will be happier because the listener is recognizing the promotion of the speaker in his work, right? And because of that reason, the speaker will feel satisfied and the speaker will like to talk more with the listener. But the listener responds like this one, the cost one, the listener will not be happy and it will not continue discussion anymore. This is what a actual bot should do. The bot should understand that the speaker has been promoted, he is in happier mood, and bot has to congratulate the speaker and also have to acknowledge the contribution, acknowledge the promotion in the work. So you see that this is not a very easy task. As a machine, as a computer, let's say, a machine, how machine will understand this? So that kind of artificial intelligence you have to incorporate into the machine, which is not very easy problem. It is really a hard problem. Okay. So now I will discuss one of the work that we had presented in 2019. Okay. Again, this is a well-known conference in natural language processing. The work was to introduce the politeness. That means, for example, politeness into the bot. Why it is important? Let's say in a customer care situations, if there is a customer care agent and you are facing a problem with your, let's say, mobile connectivity, for example. You talk to any particular, let's say, Airtel, Hearts, whatever you are using. Now, if the customer care agent is not behaving properly with you or is not trying to understand your concerns, then you may feel that okay, that this particular mobile company is not very concerned about the customer problem. So you may not, maybe you may take a decision that okay, I will not use this, rather I should take an alternative service. This happens in many times. Every day you see in all your decisions, you have multiple options. And if you are not treated properly, if you are not attended properly, you feel disconnected. And because of these disconnections, you can find and you will try to search for an alternative. Being it, let's say, going to a particular movie theater, okay, getting admitted to a particular college or university, working with a particular professors, or let's say going to a particular shop, for example, everywhere it happens. So if the agent is interacting, particularly, the agent is very polite, and even if the agent knows that this problem is happening for a while, but if the agent is talking very nicely, and still if you are facing as a customer the problem, you don't feel very bad, but you can understand that you try to understand that maybe this is the problem for a while and you are not facing this problem alone. So you feel more satisfied and then you feel more pleased, and so you can continue taking that service for a long period of time. This happens. So we try to understand that how can we incorporate this kind of features into a chatbot, into a conversational system. So our idea was to transform a very traditional mechanical response, very robotic response by a bot, by a more polite response, a courteous response, you can say. And this is very important, as I mentioned, in a kind of customer care situations. So we had collected data for from the customer care services of different companies, and those data were not relevant for politeness generation, but we got the interactions that for the different companies, customer has written, the agent has replied, those kind of conversation we got. Okay, and its main purpose is to retain the customer for a long time for a particular service, and this is very important in conversational systems. So what we mean by this courteousness or the this is coming from the theory of politeness. There is a theory of politeness that was introduced in 1987 by Brown and Levinson. And politeness expresses the one's attitude and the behavior of to the others. That how polite you are, that will be only identified that how you behave with others. That is very important. And you can say this is a courtesy is a polite remark or a respectful act. For example, let's say if you have gone to a restaurant and if the food is not good, and if you ask the waiter that okay that this food quality is not good, you complain to the manager, for example, that okay the food quality was not good, and the manager says okay you are not saying the right thing because our student is very reputed, so whatever you are saying is not correct, maybe you don't need to take any meal further, you can go other, you can try others. If this kind of responses is coming to you, then what you will do as a customer? Then this your experience, this bitter experience, you will share with all your, let's say, friends in your community, you will write the reviews, and that will have serious implications about that particular restaurant. But an intelligent manager, or let's say good businessman, they will not do like this. So they will understand, okay, so oh, okay, madam, so we are sorry to hear that you have a problem today. So we are sorry to hear it. So can you try alternative dishes? So maybe this dish was not cooked very well today. So I can give you some alternative dishes. Please try to have it. And then maybe at the end, many of them, many good agent, many good restaurant will also not ask any money from you. So these are all the business decisions that they take. And if it is done with the customer, then even if you had a bitter experience at the beginning, your when you come out of the restaurant, you had a very pleasant experience, and probably you will not share your bitter experience with others, you will not write very bad reviews. Okay? So that will have a very good impact at the end. This is what is needed from the politeness theory. Okay, so I think from this you can easily understand why it is very important. So now there are some definition of what is politeness. We can say that politeness in a broad sense is exhibited from the communicative behavior of a person into day-to-day manner. And the politeness is not very, you can say, it's an universal phenomena in the human society. And the politeness is not very fixed. It varies from person to person. It varies from culture to culture. It varies from region to region. It varies from culture, it varies from country to country. Let's say the kind of politeness that you will see in a Japanese people in Japan, the kind of politeness you cannot expect from an American. You cannot expect the kind of politeness from a British people. But if you go to the Japan, they are so humble, they are so polite. So that means what? The country wise, the region wise, the culture wise, okay, the politeness varies. So modeling politeness, give a polite a computational frame to the politeness is not an easy task. This is extremely difficult problem because of that reasons. Okay, and it has two kinds of politeness. Politeness has the duality nature. So it can be the positive politeness, it can be the negative politeness. What is positive politeness? What is negative politeness? Let's say you are talking to a group of friends, or you're delivering a lectures in the class. Okay, now let's say the most of the students are capturing your, let's say, delivery very well. So you can understand by looking at their face, because they are responding, they are asking questions, and that face, they have a positive attitude in their face. But let's say in many situations, let's say if you are saying something, or you are teaching a very difficult, complex mathematical problems, many of the students maybe are not getting. And if you ask that, okay, are you getting my points? If the students are saying, are not agreeing to it, so they have a negative face, right? So that they have a negative face, but their behavior can be polite. So for example, if you talk to your parents, and if you say that, okay, that after class 4 or 5 or 6, if you say, okay, I will not study anymore, okay, and now your parents hardly will agree to that, right? So they will disagree to your opinion that, okay, no, you should study, you should complete your 10 plus 2 graduation, master, etc., etc. So that means what? Your parents are not impolite to you. They are polite to you, but they are not approving your comment, or not approving your request, right? So this is a kind of negative politeness from your parents. Positive politeness says, let's say if you say, okay, I want to study in US, for example, or Europe, for example, I want to do a PhD, and your parents is saying, okay, that is a good decision, you should do that. That means what? You are in the same page, you are in agreement with the speakers, and you are agreeing to what the speaker is asking, what the child is saying. So this is a kind of positive politeness. And this is very important to model the positive politeness, to model the negative politeness in so negative politeness is a kind of advice giving or the disapproval. You are not agreeing to what the speaker is saying. You will see it happens many times in our day-to-day communications. You are meeting with a friends, group of friends. Let's say every time you may not agree on everything. You will have many disagreement points, but that also you have to honor, okay, in a polite manner. So that is why then the negative politeness is coming. Now, politeness can be more polite. What is maybe less polite? Less polite can be, let's say, you are just agreeing. Okay, whatever you say, I agree. Then you are joking. So you are not opposing, expressing. Let's say you are saying that, okay, I think that whatever you are saying may be right, but not now, maybe in future. So you are expressing an optimism. But more polite means, let's say you have made a mistake, you are apologetic. You are not enforcing anything to the hearer. You are appreciating the others. You are thanking others. These are all the more polite strategies. Now let us see some of the use cases in the particular problem that we have solved, that is the customer care situations. Okay. So let's say this one. The left part shows the actual interactions between the customer and the agent. Agent here is the bot, and the right part is showing the politeness oriented conversations. The left one is the actual conversation. Let's say the speaker is saying that, okay, to asking to Verizon support that please help me. I am having the worst luck with your customer service. And the bot is replying, how can we help? So this is a very mechanical response. But now rather than saying that, if the bot is responding like this, that okay, help has arrived. We are sorry to see that you are having trouble. How can we help? Then you see that because of this colored text in the right hand side, the response, if the response would be like this, then the user who is having tremendous trouble from the customer service will feel happier. But if you respond like how can you help, then it is a kind of more mechanical. And then let's say in the left part again, if the Verizon support is saying I find to address Verizon support, user is saying I finally got someone that helped me, thanks. And finally you are saying awesome. Rather than saying that, if the bot is responding as is shown in the right hand side, that awesome, if you ever need us, we are just a tweet away. So now, not only you are saying awesome, but also you are ensuring you are apologizing first because of the first expression you are saying that okay, we are sorry to hear, you are apologizing, and you are also emphasizing that you are having trouble, and at the end you are also giving a kind of assurance. Okay, we had, we feel sorry that you had trouble, but in future we will try to sort it out. Okay. Now let's say that another interaction, if you say in the left part, you can see that again there is a problem the person is facing, contacting to a particular bot, and bot is saying, let's say, can you send us a screenshot of what you are saying? We'd like to take a close look. Okay. Now in the right hand side, you see, rather than saying that, if the bot is saying, hey, the person, help is here. So you are now here to assist the person. Then if you simply reply like this, happy listening. So now, rather than saying that, if the bot says, okay, no it is at all for anything else, we are just a tweet away or we'll be always there for you, happy listening. So it is a kind of general assistance in a more emphasized way and in a more polite way. And so the customer feels more satisfied at the end, and the customer will not most likely will would like to continue with this particular service for a long period of time. Then again, some other examples. So for expressing the assurance, empathy, so there are many situations where you will see that okay, if the response is more empathetic, the if there is a kind of assurance from the agent, then the customer will be very happy. And we wanted to introduce these during the interactions. We want to build this kind of features into the model to make it more like human like, more polite. Okay. So now when we tried to do that, we did not have, as I mentioned, we got the tweet conversations, but for building any machine learning based model, you need to know the kind of annotated data. In our case, the annotation refers to the parallel data, where the input to the model will be a mechanical generic response and the output will be a courteous response or the polite response. So we can use a encoder-decoder model that we had discussed in our previous lecture at the time of attention. So we can encode the genetic response through the encoder. You have to decode it in such a way that you are able to introduce this kind of politeness like thanks for your kind words. This will be introduced additionally at the time of decoding. That actually we have to do. But this kind of data was not there. And also, as I mentioned, The politeness will vary from one agent to the other agent, from one company to the other company. Okay, some company agent will be more polite, some company agent may not be polite so much. If you are talking to a customer care agent in America, if you are talking to a customer care agent in Japan, so there will be two different situations, right? So when we collected the data from the Twitter conversation, the data was from the different companies. So the level of politeness were different. They are not same. So capturing those were difficult. What we did is that we understand that emotion, a human's emotion plays an important role in the politeness behavior. If you understand the customer is very angry, so you have to pacify the customer. So you have to understand the customer is angry. That is the emotions. That as a bot you have to understand, and then you have to pacify the customer. So understanding emotion is very important. But emotion recognition itself is a difficult task. Human emotion changes over the time. Okay, so these are all the difficulties. So we did not have the data, we did not have the parallel data. We created the data by collecting the Twitter conversation. We applied the clustering. We then created the manually using the clustering. We identify the important generic phrases. We generated the equivalent courteous phrases, and we created the kind of training data for us. Okay, that will do this conversion from non-polite response to a polite response. Okay. Finally, we got the data of conversations of 140,000 conversations between the user and the agent. Validation is 20,000, test is 40,000. So number of utterances is 1,79,000. What is the conversation is basically the pair. So for example, I am asking you a question. As a user, you are responding. This becomes a conversation. Okay, the dialogues, and then this conversation will form a long dialogue. You want to book a ticket, so you ask, let's say, to the flight reservations. So you ask, okay, I want to book a flight from Calcutta to Delhi or Patna to Delhi. Then bot asks, okay, yes, we are happy to help. When you on which date you'd like to book for, when you want to look for, and then it will be display a lot of options. You will choose one of the options. The ticket will be reserved, and they will say thank you. So you see, this whole conversation forms a dialogue between the user and the agent. Agent here is basically the bot, and the whole is a dialogue basically. Okay. So now this actually is very important. Okay. So after doing that, how do we model this using deep learning? We look into this. The left part is a LSTM network. So all these are known as the utterance, right? So every, for example, I speak something like, okay, I want to book a ticket. This becomes utterance. Now bot is responding, okay, one who is dead. That becomes a second utterance. So each utterance we encode through the LSTM, and we use a hierarchical LSTM. That lower level, the first utterance, we have a bidirectional LSTM. Then on top of that, we put another LSTM to encode the second utterance. On top of that, we put on more LSTM to encode the third utterance, and so on and so forth. So every utterance using a hierarchical LSTM network will generate the sentence embedding representation that is passed. You see that this conversational context vector, this is again the LSTM. The first sentence, every sentence representation is also passed to the bidirectional LSTM. And this bidirectional LSTM at the end will give you the whole dialogue representations, right? that we call as the conversational context vectors. So now, when we come to the encoder and decoder framework, the input to this network is the generic response, like send us a DM. This is your generic response. And you want to generate a courteous response out of that. So again, we use a BILSTM network to generate the encoders. In the encoder side, we encode this whole generic response. The last hidden state captures this whole information. This again is passed to the decoder side. In the decoder side, you see also this whole context vectors will be added as an additional input. So if you want to generate S2 at this point of time, what is input to you? The whole conversational context vector, the previous output is on, can also be an input. The previous, the hidden state in the decoder side, all are the inputs, and based on that, we generate the correct current word. So this is our baseline model. And what is our proposed model? Now, what we did is here, you can see that now we apply an attention. Again, we have the conversational context vector that is common. We have the encoder that encodes the generic response passed through the decoder. But now from the decoder, we apply an attention layer to understand that, okay, I want to decode the word at time t. At that point, which input word is more important? In the current utterance, you have asked that I want to book a ticket from Kolkata to Delhi. Out of these words, which word is important, based on which I have to generate a response. So apply this attentions layer. So there will be attention distributions for this whole input, and that will create a context vectors, attended context vectors. This attended context vector will tell you that where to focus on. And also we employ kind of reinforced learning here to generate two kinds of rewards. So this PGen, the probability of generations, that what decoder will do, decoder will generate a response. Now you have a vocabulary, whether you are generating a new word from the vocabulary or you are copying the words from this input utterance. That is very important. So we use the pointer generator network. The pointer generator network, at every point in time when it decodes a particular state, it will decide that, okay, at this point, whether I have to generate a new word or through this probability of generations, or I have to copy something from the input utterance through the context vectors, and then I have to show in the output. That means either produced something new word using the vocabulary distributions, or copy something from the input and show it in the output. So this copying something is useful, because if you say that I want to book a flight from Kolkata to Delhi, and then you are saying that, okay, so there is no freeze date, for example, and then if you say that, okay, there is no flight in the morning, for example, if you say, now you say that the flight word you are copying from the input utterance. So that you have to decide that what to copy. So this is a pointer generator network. There is a probability of generation that decides what to be copied and what to be generated. Okay, and then we generate a final. We come up with a final distributions, and then we generate the responses. Okay, accordingly. So now for the evaluations, we had used many metrics. For example, one is the content preservation, then emotional accuracy. There are many metrics for doing this. Okay. So content preservation says that whatever you are generating, whether it is whether the contents is properly preserved, whether it is adequate. If you are asking for, let's say as I mentioned, if you want to go to the Patna airport, and if your bot is generating response related to the Patna railway station, then your content is not properly preserved. Emotional accuracy will also be important. That means you have to understand that, okay, what kind of response has been generated. And if I wanted to generate a happier response, whether your system is able to generate the happier response or not. That is the emotional accuracy. Fluency is basically the fluent, whether the response that you are generating, whether it is grammatically correct or not. The content adequacy, the whether semantics is preserved or not. Okay, and courtesy appropriateness. That means unnecessarily, if you always every time you cannot add the courtesy or courteousness or the politeness expressions. If it is a purely informative, let's say if you ask, okay, how many flights are there from Patna to Delhi? So here, if the bot says that, okay, there are 5 flights, you don't need any politeness expressions to be incorporated here because you are giving just the information. But if the customer says that, okay, okay, I'm not, the kind of flights you are showing is very expensive, can you show me some cheap one? Now the bot has to be more polite because the customer is annoyed. If the customer is annoyed, then you have to show some kind of empathy. You have to come show the customer with a set of options. So the whether to incorporate the courtesy or not, that depends on the what kind of conversation is going on. So courtesy appropriateness is also is important. And then we did lot of evaluation. We have seen the blue is an important metric that matches with the ground truth response to the actual system generated response. Rouge is another metric, perplexity, content preservation, etc. And then we have shown that our model was performing well. Now, in another interesting work, what we have done is that I told you about the personalizations. So why the personalization is important? Because if you know that bot knows that which person it is talking to, then it can orient the conversation in that direction. So the example that I give, whether the sports lover or movie lover or let's say the technology lover, if the bot knows that immediately, then the conversation will be more engaging. This is very important feature. So this paper recently presented in International Joint Conference in Neural Network. What actually we did here is that uh, and also the persona is important because the persona and emotions particularly uh, the persona builds the trust, build the confidence. Because let's say in Facebook, for example, when you add someone as your friend, it depends on your confidence, on your trust, that because you know that those group of people are or a particular person has some kind of common characteristics like you, has some kind of common choices like you, so maybe the interactions will be more engaging, so you can send the friend request. So also in our day-to-day life, we only communicate, we feel more comfortable to communicate with those people who understand us very well. So that means if you know that this personal information is known in advance, okay, so that actually gives lot of confidence, okay, to the speaker and the bot to communicate among themselves because it builds the trust matter. If I don't trust anyone, if I don't know his background, let's say, if I don't know his habits, for example, I may not be very much I don't have much trust in that particular person. So I may not be very confident in communicating with them. So this is important in case of personalizations. So this is one of the example. Let's say there are two persona, let's say person one and person C. And person one is saying, okay, giving some information about himself, saying that as a child, I own a national spelling bee. I have been published in the New York magazine. I am a gourmet cook. I have perfect pitch. The other person is saying, okay, I am very athletic. I have brown hair. I love bicycling. I hate carrots. Now, let's say from these two informations, persona 1 and persona 2, now these two persons have given their own informations. some background information about themselves. Now, if person 1 is seeing the person two's information, and person 2 can see person 1 and these basic information, and based on these, they can build some kind of trust among themselves and they can communicate with themselves. So person 1 can say, hi, I work as a government cook. Person 2 say, suddenly saying that I don't like carrots, I throw them away. Now person 1 is saying, really, but I can sing pitch perfect. Person 2 is saying, I also cook and I ride my bike to work. Now say that in this case responses, okay, are more mechanical. But if you make use of this persona information that is shown above, and if you can get the emotions out of these, then this interaction will be more engaging. Let's say when the person 2 is saying, I don't like carrots, I throw them away. Okay. Rather than saying that person 2, if person 2 says that, okay, when the person was is saying that, okay, hi, I work as a government cook, and person 2 is not attending anything to person 1. What person 1 has spoken, person 2 has said something which is completely disconnected to that. So the person 1 will not feel very good from the response of person 2 because you are not attending to whatever he is speaking. So that happens in our day-to-day communications also. So if you are talking, a group of people are talking, and if you are only speaking and not hearing for the others, then the others will feel very disconnected to you. So listening is an important property in human-to-human communication, rather than talking a lot. So you have to listen to the others, and then you have to speak. That is very important. So now let's a person to say that, okay, when person says that, hi, I work as a government cook, and person to says that, okay, oh, that is a great job. So that means what? It says that when person 2 responds like this, then person 1 gets an impression that, okay, person 2 has actually attending his conversations. And then person 2 say that, but I don't like carrots and throw them away. Instead of simply like this. So in this case, you see that the response of person 2 has a happy undertone, and so it will be better response. That actually you want to generate through the emotion aware responses, and we had used the basic encoder decoder network, and also we have used a adversarial network, the generative adversarial network, for doing this. Okay, personalized response generations. So in case of basic encoder decoder, what is done is that the utterance, as I mentioned, will be encoded, and then there will be an emotion value for each of these utterances. Whether emotion value is basically whether sad, angry, disgust. There are many emotions possible. So Plutchik's wheel of emotion, if you say there are 6 emotions, for example, Ekman's basic 6 emotions, Plutchik's wheel of emotions, if you say, there are many emotion categories. So joy, sad, anger, disgust. Okay, these are the basic emotions. The surprise. So these emotions we have considered here in our work. So we get the emotion from the utterance. We create the emotion vector. We encode the utterance through the utterance encoder. And then there will be a personal encoder. What is personal encoder? All this persona information, like person 1 has stated something, person 2 has stated something, those will be encoded. And then there is a persona aware attention. This is very important. So you have to understand what is the, based on the current utterance, we have to understand what is important to focus on. If you are asking about a football, then you have to understand that it is related to the sport, and the response that you are going to generate has to be consistent with this. That So we apply kind of attention to identify what kind of discussion is going on. It is passed to the decoder, and the decoder is generating a response. That is how typically it is done. Now, in case of adversarial network, you see that this is a hierarchical network that encodes the whole conversational history. We have the emotions also encoded, like in our politeness work. We encode the whole conversational context, and we use now we have a memory network now. The memory network will contain the different personalized information. Let's say there are n number of persons. So all these personalized information will be encoded and stored into the memory slots. Now when the new utterance comes, that becomes a query to the memory network. Based on that query, okay, based on that query, you have to identify, okay, I have m personalized information. Which personalized information is more related to this query? You have to know this. And then we have an input. Let's say you get the latest one. Let's say person n is the best one. So person 1, person n will be retrieved, and then you can see that this will be encoded, added, concatenated. This is a concatenation operator along with the conversational context vectors, along with the current input utterance. Everything will be passed to the decoder to generate the response. So you get the specific personalized information through the memory network. Okay, use the conversational context vector, pass it through the decoder, generate the response. Now there are adversarial discriminators also, and there are three discriminators here. One is the semantic discriminator, then persona discriminator, and the empathetic discriminator. What they do in case of semantic discriminator, it basically says that whatever responses you are generating, how similar it is to the ground truth response. Okay, because its goal will be always to generate responses that is closer to the actual response. Then there is a persona discriminator, and the persona discriminator will always try to guide that, okay, that if the current input utterance is related to person 1, then it will always try to discriminate. Okay, will try to ensure that your agent should be able to converse as per the persona of person 1 and not person 2. That is the task of the persona discriminator. And empathetic discriminator will ensure you to converse in an empathetic manner. Then we had used a kind of conversational A12 data sets. We have this kind of, we have used 32 fine-grained emotions, so including surprise, excited, angry. This is more fine-grained and not the 6 emotions. We build our emotional classifiers, okay, using the BART-based model, which is a transformer-based network. And finally, we classify it, and again, we have a lot of responses, and you can see the responses that is being generated here. So by our model, let's say the ground truth response, there is a conversation going on between person 1, person 2. These are the personalized information. The ground truth response should be, what do you weld houses? Now the response is like this. Oh, that is great. What do you weld mostly? Is it houses? So you see that compared to this particular response is more engaging, and it has a surprise kind of emotions. Then in the second case, it has a joy kind of emotion. So our model is able to generate more emotionally oriented response that will be more engaging to the to the customers, you can say, or to the for the human to machine communications. Then also recently we had published a work in how can we incorporate sentiment and emotions in a multimodal dialogue system. Multimodal means not only text. So far we have discussed only text. But if you have the audio, video, etc., along with the text, then what will happen? Okay. So, what is meant by sentiment and emotion orientation? Because sentiment and emotion has a relation. For example, joy emotion is related to the sentiment positive. Disgust emotion is related to the negative. And as I mentioned previously, that if you have the multimodal sources, then it provides better evidences. So this example, let's say if you say that thanks for putting me on hold, I have all the time in the world. Now from this, it is very hard to, if only text is available, very hard for the machine to detect that the speaker has a negative sentiment or a kind of sarcasm. But now let's say if the acoustics is available, the audio is available, the visual expression is available, the facial expression, eye movement, intensity, pitch, etc., then the model will be able to tell that, okay, however, from the text I am not able to understand, but from the speech, from the visual expression, I am able to understand this has been told, this has been spoken in a negative sense. Okay, so because of that reasons, we use a kind of multimodal, multi-party dialogue systems, and we had actually there is no data, so we collected uh, the data or videos from the TV shows, 10 famous TV shows, the comedy series particularly, because there will be a lot of emotions expression there. Friends, The Big Bang Theory, all these are the comedy shows, the drama, etc. And then we have 1 to 5 8 number of episodes spanning across 746 hours. Okay, we have collected all these data. We have done the pre-processing, and then the data is like this. This is the distribution of the data you can see. And then we have used the Ekman's 6 basic emotions like joy, sadness, anger, fear, and surprise and disgust. These are the basic emotions. Ekman's 6 basic emotions: joy, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and disgust. Along with that, we have also considered acceptance and neutral, and we have considered the sentiment level: positive, negative, and neutral. We want to know that if it is positive sentiment has a relation with positive with, let's say, surprise maybe, or joy maybe. Negative will be sadness, anger, fear, etc. Acceptance will be more towards positivity, and then whether this emotion and sentiment both can help in better dialogue generation. So again, we have built a lot of models for sentiment analysis, and you can see we have the input utterance through the BiLSTM. We model the image using the ResNet, the audio through the audio features we have extracted to the VGG, and then we had combined all these feature representation extracted from audio, video, and text, and then we pass it through, encode this, and then finally we pass it through the decoder. Okay, that actually we have done here. So with that, probably got an idea that how we can make a sentiment and emotion and polite oriented dialogue setting. So with that, maybe I can conclude this is, as I mentioned, extremely challenging problem of building the conversational AI. There is a long path to go. There are a lot of aspects that we have to do. We have also shown a personalized emotion aware response generation. We have presented how can we incorporate the politeness into the model. We have also see that emotion can play an important role in generating a more context-aware, engaging and human-like responses, and also multimodality can play an important role. So again, particularly for this project, we are doing a lot of work in conversational AI. We are building a chatbot named as Sevok, an intelligent Indian language chatbot for the different Indian languages like English, Hindi, Bangla, Telugu, and also code mix languages, mixing of two languages for the three domains, railway, healthcare, and judiciary. Railway already we have a prototype model we have developed. We have integrated it into WhatsApp, Facebook, and through the web interfacing we have made it available. So this is a imprint 200 net project. Okay. Then we have uh, also doing a lot of research with different industries with Accenture. We have been working with the Samsung Research for dialogue systems. We also have the scholars, master students, PhD students, and they are working with different aspects of the conversational AI, including the multimodality, sentiment, emotion, grounded generation, and the explainability of the conversational system. Because you know that explainability plays an important role nowadays. Okay. So with this, maybe there are some papers that I had referred here. Mostly these are our publications. Okay, so you can see these papers, and with this, maybe I can take some questions if you have. Okay, so if you have any questions, any specific questions, you can ask me now. Anything? Anyone?
If any participant, if you want to ask any question from sir.
So the conversational AI is very important. So please remember this. And this is important in a sense that
No questions?
okay, so then if there is no questions, I'll share the slides. Please have a look into the slides. Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir. So on behalf of Central University of Rajasthan, we thank you once again for accepting our invitation and delivering a wonderful lecture. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
So the next session will be started at 2:30. Now take a lunch break. You can assemble on 2:30 sharp. Thank you.